First on the agenda, are there any changes here?
There are not.
No changes. Next, approve the minutes. The minutes of December 6th, 2021.
So move.
I have a motion by Gary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Judy. Any further discussion on these minutes?
I know that there seem to be a lot more people that were here at the meeting and not listed. Is that just because you didn't get they didn't sign in?
They didn't sign the agenda
I couldn't
for
read
the
the names. They were deciding.
scribble.
Okay.
Yeah,
Under community concerns,
yeah.
the part about the dump being open 7 days a week, not right?
It's not
If I
accurate.
did that, I'm sorry. The Stowe one is 6 days and Morristown is only 1 day, just a Saturday.
I'll fix that.
Okay.
I was wondering too, if you could put in there, maybe the select board concerns that I wasn't able to participate because the audio wasn't working.
Sure.
My audio.
That's, okay. Any other discussion on these minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are passed. Now the minutes of December 13th, 2021. Do I have a motion to move those?
So moved.
Motion by Judy,
Second.
second by Gary. Any further discussion on these? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are moved. Next, community concerns. Do we have any community concerns tonight? Any virtually? All right, seeing none, we'll move to new business. First on the list is presentation by SC Group.
Drew was online.
I see Drew up there.
And does everyone have the background on this? Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Oh, your volume's not up or something.
Let's see.
It might be our TV.
Mute and unmute. Testing.
How about
Testing.
now?
There he is.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome.
Thank you. We've got Tom Hand, who's an associate landscape architect with us, based in Stowe as well. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here for a moment. You should also have the presentation in your packets.
We do.
Great. Oh, it says the host has disabled the screen sharing. I don't know if y'all have the ability to enable that, or we can walk through if you have it in your packets. I also have it.
Yeah, she's trying. Hold on a sec.
Can you try now?
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's see. Let me make sure I can make it work properly. And hopefully y'all can see a presentation now.
Yes.
Great. So just a little bit of background on SE Group. We're a planning, permitting, and design company with offices in Vermont, in Colorado, and Utah. Our office in Vermont is in Burlington, and that's where I live, but we have some team members throughout the state. And as I mentioned, Tom is there, who lives in Stowe. We have folks in Middlebury, Franklin County, so all over, mostly northern Vermont. And we have offices in Colorado and Utah as well. We have landscape architecture, community planning. We do community redevelopment and revitalization. We have a specialty in recreation and tourism thinking and rail trails. I've done a lot of work with the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, which we'll share in a moment. Our company was founded doing ski area planning and design back in 1958, and we still do a fair amount of that. And so we work with Stowe and many of the ski areas here in Vermont and throughout the country. And we do environmental permitting and entitlement as well. And we had the pleasure of meeting with Eric and Jessica for the site visit on this proposal on the RFP. I think back in the beginning of December here, or maybe it was late November if I remember. and got to check out 2 of those vacant properties. Also spent a fair amount of time in Morrisville. Definitely like to stop and get donuts if the line isn't too long when I'm going out to play. So have some familiarity with the downtown, and Tom, being in Stowe, has visits even more frequently. So we're pretty familiar, bring our families on the rail trail, like to come and visit. But kind of understanding that there's potentially an opportunity, especially with a couple of vacant parcels in town, to explore community values for public space, potentially looking at some reuse for some of those properties, the former gas station and the vacant lot by Route 100 there, kind of opportunities to see what could be done beyond just kind of paving it over or capping it, and seeing that there could be opportunities to really boost economic development, tourism, community identity, and things like that, and bringing potentially some funding into the town to do that. Maybe also connecting the Lamoille to downtown a little bit better with the parcel closer to Railroad Street down there, and supporting local businesses. And so kind of responding to that RFP, we put together a little bit of a scope for that, primarily engaging with the select board. That would be through 3 meetings, a kickoff meeting, kind of a working session, or a design charrette, as the fancy French word for working session. And then we'd come to a final meeting to kind of present some of the concepts that could be done with these sites. We would develop a vision for public space downtown based on some of those conversations with the select board. That could be used to just kind of generate conversation within the community more broadly about these parcels and about public space downtown more broadly. We would develop those concept sketches. They would be really diagrammatic or renderings, really just intended to communicate what could be done. They're not construction documents, but very high level documents that could kind of inspire folks to see what's really possible. And then some information on implementation guidance in terms of grant funding, high level permits, and relative costs. And so kind of what I like to call the Yelp scale of cost estimation, with a couple of dollar signs, a $1 sign, a $2 sign, or a $3 sign project sort of level. Any questions, please feel free to hop in as we go along here. And then looking at the timeline, for us, this would usually be about a 2 to 4 month project. It will be primarily driven by the availability of the select board and kind of when you all can meet. When we met for the site visit, there was an idea perhaps trying to complete it for town meeting day may be a goal. We are absolutely flexible on that. But if that is the desire, I think the availability of the select board between now and then would be absolutely the most critical driver of something like that. But for us, regardless, it'd be about 2 to 4 months to move through that work. And then just a couple of project examples of our work. We've worked on the bike path here in Burlington, and some of the pause places and the park spaces alongside it. You'll see in the portfolio a riverfront park we did in Lincoln, New Hampshire a couple of years ago, which included a lot of kind of community engagement and opportunity to connect downtown to some of their natural spaces. Enosburg Falls was a Better Connection grant program project. And that one looked at connecting Enosburg to the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, very similar scope of a couple of parcels and park improvements for visioning and exploring some transportation elements as well as streetscape. These are just some of the renderings from that may be similar to what we could produce in this project. Then we followed that up with work with the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, kind of building off that Enosburg work. We developed a logo and wayfinding signage for the trail, designed over 250 signs. There's new kiosks that just went in through the Vorak project. And so this is just some examples of some of those graphics. And similar to the Lamoille, it's got a lot of connection to downtowns. And so that was a big focus of this project, was directing folks to the shopping districts and getting them from the trail to the beer, to the ice cream, or to whatever folks are looking for out there. The Union School is a good example, as it was a brownfield, had some contaminated soils, and is now really highly desirable playground in Montpelier. It just opened a couple years ago, but it's all of the kids seem to really like it. But a really good example of what can be done even in places with lots of kids and contaminated soils. Also, I think one of our most winning projects won the Facility of Merit from the Rec Parks Association, the Public Places Award, from VPA, Vermont Planners Association, and the VTSLA Award. Then a park design competition in Middlebury, just another good example of some of the graphics that could be produced to kind of demonstrate what could be done at these various sites. And just giving you a sense of what some of those could look like. The Chester Village Plan was another Better Connections grant, similarly a little bit bigger in scope, but looking at downtown visioning, streetscape, a couple of parklets. There's a couple of renderings in that one as well. Then lastly, St. Albans streetscape, which has just been an amazing kind of case study here in Vermont of public investment spurring that private investment there, where they've really kind of, as they've implemented the streetscapes that we've designed, it's really kind of been a catalyst for a lot of other private development in town. And so just a couple of photos of that. So with that, that was our presentation on the scope or the project. Are there any questions on our proposal for a team?
I had a question about funding. I'm wondering, do you help the community for grant writing or point them to where grants are available?
Yes, absolutely. I've been in contact with Jessica and Eric a little bit about the project and did share some grant opportunities with Jessica, both to potentially fund this project if needed, as well as ultimately the implementation of any of the designs. I think as we move further into the planning, more grant opportunities become available. For example, there's a lot of stormwater money. And so if that was part of some of the park development, more money becomes available to the town. And so initially to kind of do the visioning, there's absolutely some grants available. I spoke with Jessica a little bit about this, but the municipal planning grants may be a good one for what you all have listed in the RFP now. And then if you look at a Better Connections grant through ACCD and VTrans, that would give you a little bit of a bigger scope to do both some select board engagement, some public engagement, and explore a little bit more of the transportation and streetscape elements all together. And that may be the best approach for the town to kind of move that through as one big project to do that. But as we get into the project, absolutely part of that would be identifying grants that could support ultimate implementation as well.
I would say too that a key differentiator from our standpoint, looking at this scope, was using these two parcels really as launching points in terms of visioning downtown, and not necessarily focusing entirely on those parcels, but how they fit into the downtown, and work with both the vehicular and pedestrian connections and transportation system. And it might almost be a little bit of, well, you have this open space here, but it's better used as parking, and we can give up parking somewhere else that might actually serve a better use as pedestrian space. So trying to look at those parcels not necessarily as like the parks where potentially we come in and design an element there, but as really kind of a bargaining chip within the town to really maximize the best way to move throughout town and connect like Drew said earlier, the rail trail up to say the businesses and whatnot. So really interested in looking at how those parcels fit in, and working with the select board and the community to kind of engage and understand how they're best valued. And so to Drew's point on the Better Connections, like that does really work well with the ultimate drivers of that grant funding.
Absolutely. It'd be really well aligned with that. The issues that are at play here are really well aligned with that. And it would encompass everything you have in your current RFP, plus a little bit more. It would include some more community engagement, and it could get you further along on concept than, I think as the RFP was listed, kind of rough design, you could get to more of a concept design and be ready for your next step to be scoping. For streetscape or street realignment, you could go right into the VTrans scoping process from a Better Connections grant. It also does open you up to further funding from the state. Once you get that first grant, they have implementation grants that are only for the Better Connections program as well. And so it's a good one to get into from that regard as well.
And Drew, just to clarify, the Better Connections grant is caps around, is it 88,000 or something? And then the town's responsible for a 10% match, is that correct? Or?
Yeah, I believe it is a 10% match, and the funds, there is a stormwater addition that many communities have gone after. In Northfield is one that we just did through the Better Connections that got the stormwater addition. You get a little bit of additional funds. And almost inevitably, if you're doing things with roadways or streetscape, you're going to have stormwater. So it's nice to get funding to do even more with that and do it all together. And so that we encourage to look at that addition to the Better Connections as well.
Just got a question on your, say, Enosburg project. Do those take place on already town-owned lands, or are they private properties?
So it takes place at the master plan level for both private properties, public properties. Some of them were owned by, the rail trail was owned by the Agency of Transportation, and envisioned some lands that were privately owned as well. There, we're working with the private landowner. In that case, there was a building that was being rehabbed to be a museum. And it was part of the visioning because the landowner had a vision for that building. And it fit in with some of the other things that were happening. And so in this case, kind of understanding there may be a municipal opportunity to acquire land, it would help you kind of think about the merits of that, the costs, and kind of what you might do afterwards. So it'd give you a much better look at the potential opportunity of acquiring that land. But it might also tell you that it's not the right land to acquire, and maybe there's other opportunities for public space downtown.
Thank you.
But the program would be eligible for the entire kind of downtown Morrisville Village area, and it would encompass those properties.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions or comments?
Do we have a time limitation of town meeting or not?
I'm not quite sure how to answer. We don't own any property. We looked at 2 lots that are available for sale.
Okay.
Which was the lot down here that Roland Yost building used to sit on, it's vacant now.
Right.
And it's been for sale for some time.
Right.
And then the other lot was the gas station, which both are owned by private entities. We just looked at those as the possibilities of doing some sort of park design almost in the downtown area.
Okay.
And in terms of the grant writing process, the Better Connections grant program, that's the much bigger grant to go for. The letter of intent would be due January 15th, but I believe it requires that our downtown designation has
We have it.
We do have it? Okay.
No, we don't have it.
We don't have it
We
yet.
would have to have it.
We would have to have it for that. So that may have to be a back burner, but like Drew was saying, that would be something, it's a much bigger grant, and it could involve potentially the realigning of that intersection that Todd was talking about by the old gas station. The smaller grant to go for would be the municipal planning grant. We have missed that funding cycle for this year, but that would cover the planning process. That would more than cover the planning process as outlined in this RFP. And I now have a list from Drew and SE Group about other potential grants. And most of the matching is around 10%, so it's not that huge. And I don't know if and we could talk about, where that 10% would come from. So there's a lot on the table, but I think this gives us a good start.
Yeah.
Also, sorry,
Go ahead.
you can go.
I was just gonna say, I really like the idea a lot. I mean, obviously, it's not something we could plan for this coming town meeting, but I love the idea of having a plan going forward that we could figure out everything, you know. Obviously, we've got to get the voters' approval to have anything like this happen. And that too is why it couldn't happen this coming town meeting day. But maybe if we could get things set up and become eligible, you know, as far as a designated downtown and, you know, applying for the grants in a timely manner. We have to, it's kind of like for me, it sounds like this domino effect that's got to happen to make it all happen and then be approved by the town, the taxpayers. But I love the idea, and it'd be great to take advantage of this to make something out of those two properties, or I can even think of more than two. But like Eric said, it's not an easy thing when you deal with private ownership. That's why I'm glad to hear you guys talk about, you know, some of your projects have involved properties that were owned privately, because that's the first thing that comes to mind. You know, not even knowing what we might be able to acquire property for, and then all the costs and everything that goes with it. You know, there's a bunch of question marks, but I like the idea, certainly.
Tom, isn't the Westford project that you're working through right now, it's not owned by the town, but they're planning for it. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, and I was just thinking of that one too, because that is one where they have received a grant and are working with, you know, their local regional planning commission on, you know, multitude of facets on that project, from both the, you know, planning and design of what they want it to be, to also working through a corrective action plan and remediation of, you know, what also used to be a former kind of gas station, you know, bus barn, bus depot area, right in the village of Westford. So, you know, it's a similar relationship, and you know, what we're seeing there is the community gets a little bit more on notice, because now we're, you know, the town is starting to talk about, you know, developing private lands that they don't own yet. But you know, what we're seeing is that it's just really critical to be open and clear with communication. And you know, I think the point of like making sure the community is supportive of the project and the process right from the start, like you're saying, is a really critical piece. It's a matter of saying, like, this is where we can go and what those high level goals are that we're trying to achieve, but this is the process and the steps we need to take. And you know, ultimately, what is the funding source, whether it is through taxpayer funding and it's a you know, a small bond vote or something on the ballot, to are there, you know, grants that are available that the town can pursue and fund it through that aspect.
Yeah, of course, we'd have to have the full cooperation of the property owner as well, you know, and have them agree to do the process. You know, that's also a big order, but it'd be great to have happen. You know, I know that you know, with our history, we can buy real estate. You know, the select board is able to do that, but when you're talking about really large purchase and you know, involving several $100,000 or $1 million or whatever it is, we definitely would have to get taxpayer approval. So, but I appreciate your time and effort. I'd like to look into it further for sure.
No, I'd be interested, yes.
The other thing is, you're saying, Bob, that we would have to get taxpayer approval before we bring it to the voters for approval. But see, but what I'm wondering is there a mechanism by which we can bring it before the town just in this planning phase? Because that was sort of part of the idea, is that we can all talk together as a select board. And part of my other ideas about this process are, you know, bringing in all the other interested local organizations that would have a stake in this. You know, not trying to totally act independently, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I know so much work has gone on in the downtown around revitalization. Also, perhaps creating an informal survey, like a Google survey, for the town to gauge interest. And also, you know, speaking with the owners of the property it further to say, like, do you want to be part of this visioning process? And applying for the grants, I wonder if we can do all of those pieces before we bring it to the town. Because, you know, what I was imagining we would bring to the town is a proposal and these designs, you know, like we've come up with these ideas, you know, and a lot of these pictures that you see in the presentation, it's, you know, people in the community, and there's, you know, big displays, and they're saying like, I envision this, or I like this. Hyde Park went through a similar process for their downtown. They just got a Better Connections grant. So I'm just wondering, I wonder like if there is a piece that we can do so that we're really presenting a vision to the town, to ask, you know, to ask for the support from the town, and not even necessarily very much money up front, just, you know, yeah, this is in line with
Survey.
our values, yeah.
I
And
like that
also,
idea.
and I also like the idea, as you're mentioning, the partnering with the private landowners, and the public-private investment. I'm wondering if you could just speak to that like really briefly, because what I feel like where I'm seeing the trajectory of the town go is that a lot, like as we're seeing by all the people showing up at our planning, like our town plan meetings and all of our meetings lately, that people are getting really like interested in the development of town, and some people are okay with it, but some people aren't okay with it, and some people just like want to see that there's more of a vision. So I'm wondering, you know, like with some of our bigger developers, if there is a partnership that we can nurture, where we're saying like, okay, you're building this, you know, this much needed housing. How can we partner, you know, in line with this vision to help fund some of these public projects? So I don't know if there's anything you could speak to briefly that would speak to that public-private partnership a little more.
Yeah, I think especially kind of based on this conversation, I would really encourage you to think about the Better Connections program, because that would allow you to look at the town very broadly, look at that and have those conversations around how do we structure public-private partnerships, who's interested, and you can have those conversations with both the community and the development community, different stakeholders, those landowners in particular. And you could start to pursue those funds without knowing these are the two sites. Maybe there are several other sites, and maybe one of those falls away, maybe one of them stays. But really exploring that concept of streetscape enhancement, public space, and, you know, movement of cars and people, which is really what the Better Connections programs are all about. And then you could use that as a way to study these and have those conversations that you do need to have with both the community and the private landowners through that. But you don't necessarily have to get their buy-in on acquiring property or anything like that before you go for the Better Connections grant. And I really think that would be a good vehicle. I would also just say one note is you may be able to reach out to Richard Amore about having a pending approval for that downtown designation. If you do have something in, that could be an opportunity. I know he has been flexible on some things like that in the past.
I would add in too. Sorry, I would add in regarding the private public development. You know, what we're seeing on the Westford project is that the town has partnered not necessarily with private developers, but with, you know, other public nonprofit agencies. You know, they're trying to look at creating affordable housing in the village. So they've partnered with Champlain Housing Trust and Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity, as well as Vermont River Conservancy. And so it's, you know, a little bit of a complicated but very strong group of entities that are working together with the town on this, you know, one particular parcel, but for the benefit of, you know, both public access to the river they have there, the, you know, investment in local affordable housing, and the town also gets, you know, public access and kind of improved downtown frontage as well out of it, as well as the potential that they might carve out some of the land for additional municipal use. So, you know, there's a couple of routes. One, looking at, you know, are there agencies, whether it's through, you know, Lamoille Regional Planning Commission, and some of those other partner agencies that you could try to partner with and kind of look at, all right, what are the bigger, broader things we're trying to get out of this ongoing revitalization of downtown, and kind of form a stronger family of partners to go after continued planning.
Yeah, thinking about it too, I'd really like to have our community coordinator, Trish Fowler, in on the conversation, because she knows a lot about it. It's unfortunate she's not with us tonight. And also LCPC might be able to help us as well, Like you said, they could partner with us and maybe help us pull a project together.
I just know our downtown designation, I think, is not going to happen until,
Soon.
well, but I think I don't think till like summer.
Right.
All the paperwork it has to go through, yeah.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. A year from now, we might be.
That's a concern I have about applying for Better Connections grant. We have to have downtown designation, so it's kind of, I don't know how to even think about that.
Yeah,
How
that's a
the
Trish.
steps go.
Well, and part of it might be that, we've kind of outlined to you like a synopsis of what our process would be to kind of complete this project as you guys kind of asked for, right? The other thing might be, a year out from now, you have the designation, you have kind of worked with these partners we've talked about tonight, and create a better understanding of what that ultimate vision is. And now you can start to hit the ground running in a year with, your partners in place, your downtown designation in place, and a really strong proposal for what you're trying to go after for the grant as well. So, think about the steps, the pre-steps you can take to get to that point where you're actually then ready to do the project.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're willing to continue to counsel on that as much as needed too.
Go ahead, Brian.
So I want to say, I think we're kind of getting the cart ahead of the horse. I think we, first of all, to be doing what we're talking about doing, we're looking at a piece of property, we don't have one.
Right.
So I think we ought to be looking more into that at the same time of doing some of the other, but again, sounds like we aren't ready.
So
So do we have a contract with these guys yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering, I don't know, you fell on the right side of the screen. That's
Tom.
When you were talking about the steps, are you talking about on the proposal, page 12? With page 2 of your proposal, select board engagement, communicate vision, presentation graphics, information guides, is that what you're talking about, steps?
Yes, yeah. So there's that, kind of brief scope of work that, Drew and I worked together on developing. And, when we get into the project as defined by the, RFP that we received, that is the workflow that we thought about in terms of kind of addressing these two parcels that you're currently thinking about, how they fit into the broader town network, right? That scope of work may change slightly in however much time from now, depending on how you guys develop this project, develop the vision, work with project partners. You might decide, what, as much housing is going into Morrisville already, in Morristown, like maybe we could invest in more housing, right in the downtown area. So there's a housing piece of it. So that is, I think, a good example of an initial scope of work that, we've outlined and takes that 2 to 4 month process to get through some high level planning of these parcels, and starts to really get the juices flowing in terms of thinking about downtown, what some of the opportunities are. But you could also go through a little bit more of a strategic process and not put the cart before the horse, and kind of get thoughts in order around what you really want to do, get out of these parcels, other important issues in downtown, and connections that can be made, and really look at the Better Connections grant application, say, all right, if we're trying to go for this as a grant, like, what are the stormwater things we can do? What are the transportation things we can do? Who are the appropriate partners to connect with in order to chase that? And out of that, then form potentially a new RFP. Well, first do your grant, and then potentially put a new RFP together that says, all right, now this is the project that we ultimately want to go after.
because I think as much as we want to work with you all on this scope, I think the thing we'd recommend is, waiting on it, pausing until you can do the Better Connections project, and then you can do that scope of work plus a lot more as well. And so I would say, I think doing a survey of your community now, just gauging their idea of exploring this and about those parcels could be really helpful just to get some kind of movement, and then working towards that. And we're really happy to consult at any time between now and then, but it's like if somebody's coming to purchase these parcels and there is some critical need to explore them right away, then do that. But if not, kind of take a step back, look at it downtown a little bit more comprehensively, and explore these parcels and others in transportation and stormwater and some of those other things all together. And then get yourself set up for funding, because that's what the Better Connection program has been really successful at, is teeing up communities for the full gamut of funding from ACCD and VTrans, because it brings both those agencies together and it gets you kind of a first row seat at all of those funds.
Sounds good. Well, I do understand and appreciate what Brian's talking about, the cart before the horse, but I like the idea of putting out a study, or at least finding out, what people want, and if we can make a plan. I do know there's a couple of different areas where we possibly could get some funding too. One of those is the Copley Fund, which, it funds different things in this town. It has for a long time, and there's quite a bit of money in that fund. It's a very specific criteria that goes with it, but that's certainly an avenue for funding. The other one is, I brought it up before, is we have a Morristown Development Fund, and we haven't actually made a loan to that in a long time. And I serve on that board as well, and we've actually talked about dedicating that to some sort of town project, some specific thing. And the select board hasn't molded over yet, but that fund is sitting, and I think there's about $600,000 in the fund, something like that. And that's a possibility for funding too. So it wouldn't be just the taxpayers' money, but there is hope out there for having a project like that become reality. So, but I understand what Brian's talking about. We don't have the land yet, but I like the idea of a study, or at least some survey to see where people want to go. Maybe that's something we could have a survey appear on the town meeting, or something like that. We appreciate your joining us tonight, and certainly make us think about the future in town.
Well, we appreciate your time too, and we're excited. There's a lot of momentum in Morristown right now. As Tom mentioned, there's a lot of housing going in, really exciting projects, and the Lamoille's taken off, and we really see Morristown as a town on the rise in Vermont. So we're excited to spend some time with you. Thanks.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thank you for your time, both Drew and Tom.
I think there might be a bigger scope that we come into this. I mean, we're looking at maybe a bigger police department, town garage,
Right.
Village garage combination, the whole
Public safety building.
public safety building type thing. I mean, this could all be worked into it. And I'm also wondering, have we reached out to any other planners, or are these is it advertised?
Yes,
Everything?
yeah.
So the RFP up to 5 different companies in the Chittenden County region, SE Group's the one that responsible.
But yeah, you're right. Looking at the bigger picture, that's
You look at it from 30,000 feet instead of 10, maybe.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 2, signed letter of support for Lost Nation Brewing's application to the Vermont Capital Investment Grant. Alan,
Yes.
you want to speak about that?
Sure. Well, last spring, we took our outdoor seating area, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, our restaurant, and we took some of the PPP money, a lot of restaurant revitalization money, and devoted it towards a massive upgrade in the space. We put a new slab, we buried all the utilities, we upgraded our kitchen, and it really became a beautiful space. And our intent from the beginning was to frame it so that it could eventually be closed in. So the exterior wall that you see as you pass by Low Creamery, that is a 2x6 frames insulated wall that is fully exterior, ready to be exterior house. And our intent was to work through the summer, hopefully make enough money to close that space in, put the glass garage doors on the top, and button up each ends, and drop heaters in there, have a year-round space. And like many other restaurants in the area, we were faced with a lot of labor shortages. We were not able to realize the revenue that we had anticipated, so we weren't able to close that space in. So coming into October, we laid off a bunch of people where if we were able to keep going, which we have done historically every year, because we close the outdoor space, we go inside to a much smaller space. But we had hoped to be able to keep going to raise that money to frame everything in and bump it all up so we could operate year-round outside, especially in this world, more space and outdoor, large ventilated areas are everyone's privy. So this grant came along, I caught wind of it, and my understanding is it is a infrastructure grant for job preservation. This is, I feel that we're perfectly positioned for this. I've been working on the past couple months to develop quotes together for the space, and this would be the final piece of our support, and we're going to submit the application probably tomorrow or by the end of the week, and fingers crossed for the funds.
Sounds good. Any questions, or does somebody have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve it. Authorize Bob.
I have a motion by Brian and a second by Gary. Is there any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed.
Always a pleasure, thank you all.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Be a nice space for everyone.
If get Todd's.
Thank you. I got Todd's here.
Oh, you do?
Yes, okay, thank you all very much.
Yes.
Have a great night.
Yeah, good luck. All right, next, approved road naming, First Light Lane.
There are two road names at this time being requested. They are both First Light Lane and that's Even High Lane. Both are enclosed within the same development. The proposed development after 100 South lies right beside Van Ness Road on the north side of Van Ness Road. The two roads are both kind of encapsulated inside the meadow there that's going to be developed.
Okay. Do I hear a motion regarding them?
So move.
Motion by Gary,
Both, can we go both at once?
I'm good with that, the same
same parcel.
Same developer.
All right, I have a motion by Gary and a second by Judy.
Yes.
Any further discussion on these? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed unanimously. Next, discuss the MCC appropriation article.
See in your packet there, I included the verbiage for the town meeting taxpayers. I don't think that the leadership from FCC has seen this yet. Look at my copy, I don't know if it's yours.
Yeah.
What we did, folks, is we went back in time. We went back in time to when the first $17,000 was appropriated to that fund. And I used the exact same wording, except I removed the $17,000 request and put in a half-cent on the bank. All the other verbiage is identical. And so it spells out the direction for the money to go to, and what it incorporated into what's needs.
And I, just to give a little more detail, Eric mentioned it earlier, but the idea is to have maybe 2 or 3 years of this to get to the level of $100,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do I hear a motion regarding this?
So is this the motion here? Or
So did it change? Is this the revised version?
It is the revised version, I
Okay.
don't know if it's in your packet or not.
Okay.
And the motion would simply be to approve that.
As presented.
Article 4.
And so we wouldn't be requiring the MCC to have everyone sign this?
No, it will be on the,
They could bypass that.
right. It'll be an article at town meeting.
Make a motion to accept the article. Do we read the whole thing into the record?
You can if you like.
That will the town in town meeting vote to appropriate the sum equal to 0.5% on the grand list for the purpose of preserving open space and natural resources lands, negotiating options, purchase agreements, and other legal documents, purchasing or otherwise acquiring lands or interest therein, and other activities consistent with Morristown Conservation Commission bylaws. Such money to be placed in the Morristown Conservation Commission fund and used in accordance with said bylaws. Unused portions of this fund will carry over to be used solely for these purposes in future years.
Good job.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gary.
Is there any discussion, like, this is all good with you all, and, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
We've been waiting a long time for that, right, Ron?
Yeah. Okay.
A couple of years. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. All your work, great work.
Next, approve LCPC property transfer to town, Ryder Island.
So folks, the word approve is probably misplaced here. This is simply an FYI.
Yeah.
We've said we've already approved that we're releasing that property to the town of Morristown. This is the certificate resolution I received from the executive director after a board of directors meeting with the LCPC. This is just saying that they have resolved to the payment due back to the town during the process.
It's all yours.
No action necessary.
Okay.
Hours.
FYI. Okay. Next, review the Oxbow use rules and regulations.
So at the end of the season, we're starting to get requests for the use of the Oxbow. It's just a good time for us to just look down through the current use application and the restrictions for land use based on our policy, and to start a conversation with you folks as to how we want to proceed throughout the coming months as we receive these requests for usage of the Oxbow. Would you entertain the idea of an approval process outside of your direct purview? So I said it doesn't take up meeting time on those applications that do not involve alcohol. In my preference, I would rather have the board fully involved in that decision.
Or changes to the time, like late.
Sure thing. If it goes beyond the 10 o'clock normal closing time, something, anything that's out of the ordinary use.
Right. And we're gonna ask Jason for that anyway.
Sure.
You know,
If that's okay with you folks, then I'll put something together to change the verbiage down the process for approvals.
it sounds good to me.
And then, you know, what we bring to you, you can tweak it and adjust until we get it right. But that's.
We don't get that many, why can't we?
Right. Right. Only a
Oh,
few.
you're saying we don't get that many, why can't we do it? Or-
Why, yeah, why can't we do it here?
You can. I'm offering to you
Okay.
to take it off of your plate such that it reduces your meeting times. It's just something between the Trish, or whomsoever the community development coordinators and the TA could likely review these applications as they come in, and if there's standard use for the musical events that don't go beyond the typical 10 o'clock hour, no alcohol use, those kind of events that are more or less run of the mill, common use of the park, that they could be approved in-house, make you folks aware of the usage.
Or like a wedding or
Just-
something
yeah,
like that.
just- Or we can do it during the meeting, it's completely up to you. I'm just looking for ways.
He's trying to help make the meeting
I
shorter.
know he's trying to be nice to us, but we just keep kicking Bob, he goes a little faster,
I don't mind I don't mind Trish taking over that responsibility and just letting us know.
so. Does she really want?
As long as we know.
Yeah.
She said she thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
And because it actually streamlined some of the things as far as timeline goes. These
Yeah.
folks, you're gonna see an application here in just a moment, that is well in advance, their September request, so, no issue on this timeline wise, but sometimes
Fiddlers one.
the 2 weeks can make a difference on the plan.
That's probably as big a concern as anything.
Yeah. That way you don't have to wait for a meeting.
Correct.
And if if it's a last minute thing, you know, that happens too.
But this one here's already got a controversy there after price wave, right?
We'll get there in just a second.
Okay.
But it'd be nice to have the FYI about these, you know, just so we know when somebody says, oh, what's going on at the Expo?
Yeah,
You
we
know,
can certainly develop
at least we know.
a monthly calendar that we release as part of your packet as an FYI.
Yeah, that'd be
Let
nice.
you know what the usage
I see
currently
what you
are.
mean.
I'd like to go down and listen to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause we don't need a motion on this.
No, just a direction of travel,
Yeah,
that's all. If that's
okay.
okay with you folks, we'll come up with a revised policy back to what you decide. Okay?
Sounds good.
Very good. All right, next, along that line, approve the Fiddler's Meat application.
These folks have used our expo before, last year. They presented us a certificate of insurance. The certificate of insurance. Okay. We're just going to confirm that the certificate they gave us last year, the dates are inclusive of this date. If they aren't, we'll require them to give us an updated certificate.
You might have added that John Morristown is additional insured.
The initial insured?
Additional.
Additional insured, oh, okay, gotcha.
And Jason, you didn't have any issues with this last year, the Fiddler's Meat?
No, we didn't.
They have requested, the town consider waiving their $150 user's fee for the event if they are, in their words, whole. It's
Really?
an event free to the community, they don't charge admissions or any, and there's no fees, this is simply a fun event for them. Maybe the county, the town would consider that.
What would, I mean, they still have to put the deposit down, correct?
They do, all other stipulations will apply.
And are there other groups, organizations that,
That have paid
rent
$150.
out and that's open to the public?
They all get charged the same users.
Right, well, but I'm saying, do they, and then they open it up to the public? Are there other groups
Not all of
that
them
do
open to the public, no, some of them are private entities.
that? Right, okay.
I think part of that fee is probably things like cleanup, stuff. We have to have the highway guys empty trash and that kind of stuff.
You know, electricity that we use.
Electricity.
Or use the bathrooms.
Yeah, I think keep the fee.
150 is not very much.
No.
Really.
Even if they're,
It's even cheaper than Elmore, the pavilion.
Gotta put a can down there and everybody
So-
can down.
Do I have a motion regarding this?
They should charge a fee, yeah. $5.
I approve, I make a motion to approve the Fiddler's Meat application with the fee included.
I have a motion by Judy. Do I have a second?
Sure.
Second by Gary. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Next, number 9, approve the MOU for the police department.
Jason, you want
Jason, you're up,
to?
buddy.
So what this is I want to appoint a acting sergeant while I'm interim chief to kind of relieve some of the responsibility for myself, since I'm working the investigative side of things. So the union and myself and Eric drafted up an MOU, which will give the acting sergeant $2 extra an hour. And that will stay in place until the end of June, and then this MOU will be terminated. At that point, we'll have a hiring process within for the sergeant spot.
That sounds good.
Jason seems to find himself busier than normal.
I don't know why. You have big shoes to fill, Jason.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion regarding this?
Help you out.
I guess I know he has nothing else to do.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second?
Okay, I can say on your behalf.
Second by Gary. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed unanimously. Number 10, accept the resignation for the town cleaning employee. That's too
This one came out of the blue.
Yeah. Never would have thought that,
So what happens if we don't approve it?
right?
Right?
Just
The charge
this
can
is.
overflow, so it's pretty serious.
Richard's right. Well, Richard, I've seen
Does
Richard in
everyone know
here
what we're
cleaning.
giggling about? The chief,
like Carol said.
the retiring police chief's wife was, cleaning the Oxbow.
No, here.
Can I?
No, Tim,
Oh, here.
he's opposite.
Police.
Can I read it? I believe the time has come for Richard and I to move on and spend some time enjoying his retirement. That's just beautiful.
That's
I am
awesome.
ending my cleaning contract with the town of Morristown. I will no longer be cleaning the Morristown Police Department or Tegu Building. My last cleaning will be on January 28th, 2022, which will allow you time to fill the contract. Thank you, Penelope Keith. That's
Maybe
very
the new
nice.
sergeant?
I'm sorry,
The new
the
sergeant?
new sergeant.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen, Richard's been in here plenty of times cleaning with Penny.
So what's gonna come out of this though is the new sergeant will do the police department. And Eric Dodge, I think I see his name. He can do the.
So do I hear a motion to accept this?
So moved.
With regret.
Motion by Brian, second by
And a thank
Gary.
you, a big thank you.
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed unanimously.
An RFP has already gone out to the community for
A cleanup.
bids for replacement cleaning. So we'll have a appointment for the second meeting in January, and starting in the first week of February.
How about a dog officer assistant? Is that position going on yet?
Included in that contract?
Yeah. Combine everything.
He thinks I'm joking.
If we can get them to be a grant writer, we'd be in shape.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, next, number 12, review bid for truck number 34 at the highway garage. Isn't that a flower pot?
Number 11.
11.
So you weren't gonna do 11, were you?
What? Oh, yes, I did, I brushed right by it, sorry. Number 11.
design.
Yeah, by design. Tell Richard he's not getting done. Number 11, accept resignation of the police chief.
So moved.
Second.
Any
With
further
regrets and a big
discussion?
Thank you.
Yes, a big thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed, unfortunately. No. Unanimously. All right, now we'll do review bid of truck number 34, the flower pot. Pretty much, right, Kevin? Do I hear a motion? You guys saw the bid?
Yeah.
This truck doesn't, it's in rough shape.
This is the one that has the trees growing through it, or is this
It is not a trailer. This is a truck that has some significant maintenance issues now.
It was a salt truck at one point. Salt
Yeah.
truck. And the salt is taking its toll.
Okay.
It hasn't been used in a couple of years.
Well, we used it a little bit last year,
Yeah.
but not much.
Probably not inspected.
It's the last of our used car lot. We got 549.
I just wanna, I don't wanna throw a wrench in anything, but like, I just am wondering, because our budget's so tight, like, could we make more than this if we brought it to all metals?
Yeah, you gotta have somebody haul it, and that's
Right.
probably most of the cost.
Right, okay.
It might cost $500 to have someone
It's
bring it
not
up there.
drivable, it's not inspected or drivable.
No. No. I know it seems like just a tiny amount of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Then go try to move it or whatever.
Right.
Don't forget you're paying
insurance on that truck.
We're moving a schedule forward on the replacement schedule of our dump trucks happening in a 7-year time period versus this truck, which is what's the ground?
14 years or something? It's over 10.
Mid-thousands, 2000.
Yeah, so while this one doesn't always have anything, but it's young tired. Yeah, it's dead.
But it's good to ask the question.
Right, yeah, like if
I know, you think 150
if
bucks.
we're getting rid of vehicles earlier, can we make anything, can we recoup anything, you know, that's.
We are, I mean.
On the 7-year cycle.
But it takes, we have so many dump trucks, it takes us a while to get that
Yeah,
complete cycle done. It'll
Yeah.
be probably another 7-8 years
Isn't that right?
before we're completely in within that 7-year cycle.
yeah,
We're buying our trucks, financing for 5, keeping them for 7 with extended warranty, and then trading them in when the warranty expires.
right.
It's like that we get more money for the vehicle when we trade it in. Yes. We had put that program in place, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah. And they're under warranty the whole time we have them.
Right, yeah.
That's huge.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes if we got any life to them too, we put them out to bid.
Yeah,
Right.
we do.
So see if we could get.
Right. So do I hear a motion regarding this?
I'll make a motion, we let him have it for 150.
I have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Judy. Any further discussion?
He works for us, doesn't he?
No,
Yeah.
that's his son, this is his son buying it. Ray LaCasse himself works for us in the highway department, this is his 18-year-old son that's buying it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion is passed unanimously. Next, approve the warrant. Do I hear a motion to approve the warrant?
So moved.
I have a motion by Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. TA report. Eric.
Sarah is with us via Zoom tonight.
Hi, Sarah.
Dated December 2nd. This is in your packet. If you don't mind my reading it for everybody's understanding. This comes from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. Dear Sarah, the Athenians were leaders who invented the idea of political democracy, philosophy, logic, and rhetoric. They left the world enriched with their ideas. The choice of Athenian in the title of Leadership Society signals the value of this culture from 2,500 years ago. To be an Athenian fellow is to hold knowledge and the quest for knowledge in high esteem. Municipal clerks at their best exemplify Athenian values. The Education Department is pleased to announce that you have fulfilled all the requirements to become an Athenian fellow and have accepted you as a fellow in the Athenian Leadership Society. IIMC will recognize your hard work and efforts toward this accomplishment at the 2022 annual conference in Little Rock, Arkansas. During the opening ceremony on Monday, May 23rd, 2022, your fellowship certificate and pin are enclosed. We look forward to seeing you wear your pin. This is yet another milestone
Kudos.
in Sarah's continued journey into professional development in the municipal clerk's world, and this is something for her to be very, very proud of.
Well done.
Congratulations, Sarah.
Very good. Well done.
Great job.
Speech.
No speech, but thank you. I actually loved doing the Athenian Dialogue leadership classes, and I'm pretty sure yesterday I finished my last class in order to become an internationally recognized municipal clerk. Once I get that, then I can go for my master's, and then I can be an Athenian Dialogue facilitator and teach classes to clerks all over the U.S. So that's
Wait.
my long goal.
Wow.
Well, you getting this international thing, you're not thinking of moving to Spain or something, are you?
Or Costa
No,
Rica.
Or Costa Rica, yeah.
no,
Well done.
thanks.
Congratulations.
Excellent, Sarah.
Any more?
So, moving along, I wanted to bring your attention, if you haven't noticed down in the Oxbow, the basketball court down there has been lit up now for well over a month, maybe a little longer than that. That lighting and its wiring and installation all happened at a cost of a little over $8,000. $4,155 of that came from a recreational facilities grant that Tricia Fowler wrote.
Oh,
Yay.
And then she went out to the village of Morrisville, talked to Penny, Old Water and Light, and they, through their funding sources, came up with the other half of the money. And the entire project was paid for and installed, and it's been very well used. Maybe not so much this time of year with basketball, but I don't know if you drive by there. I would drive by now and I look down there because I'm sure it's helped a lot of folks be able to look down Portland Street to see into the parking lot is much better lit. So it's creating several different very positive additions to the Oxbow Park.
Well, kudos to Tricia.
Yep, very nice. The grant paperwork has been submitted for the Better Roads program for the road erosion inventory that's going to happen next summer. I am over to see $8,000 from that, so that'll be $8,000 that we'll see trimmed at our next select board meeting after Christmas. Just, I can talk to you about the highway department every time we meet, because it seems the weather patterns have kept them out repeatedly and continuously for
2 days.
2 days, yes. The guys are holding up very well, the vehicles are running well, so far so good with the equipment, but, I don't, the complaints as far as I'm concerned, I don't know that I've gotten one yet, so the guys are really hitting this thing and they're getting out there, and, Kevin and Scott and Matt, they're all doing a good job keeping things cleared up for our commuters and folks around town. But I would be remiss in not pointing out that the police department has been extremely active recently. They had an incident Friday at People's Academy. The response was a shared response between our department and the sheriff's department. I'm not sure who else may have responded, but they handled the situation very, very well. We heard feedback already about how professional they were, dealing with the students, and sending back up there and follow up this morning with the presence, just to let folks know that we take our school safety seriously. That is all I have for comments.
Okay, any questions for Eric? Thanks, Eric. Select board concerns, Gary.
No, I don't have any concerns that I'm aware of. Yeah, just like Eric, kudos to the highway department for keeping the streets as good as they are, because this last storm, of course, came right after a huge thaw, and I'm sure the back roads were a little rough to flat. But
Brent Daniel mentioned that he heard the graders out at 12:30 a.m. when that temperature dropped, or when the temperature went up to 50 degrees and frost came out of the roads and created a mini spring mud season. And they got the guys out with the graders and fixed those roads, and then they turned back up again, so they're in better shape now.
All right, Judy.
Just like to thank the select board for their support and concern and care.
Thank you. Jess?
Thanks for mentioning that, Eric, about the police presence at People's Academy. As you know, I work there, and I really appreciated having them help out on Friday, and then to have the presence on today at school. It was, yeah, very respectful, but also like they were there, so we felt safe. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jess. Brian?
The Stafford Avenue lights.
Good about the stuff. Oh, about the intersection being lit?
Yeah.
I have a meeting, Rob Moore from LCPC is setting that up in the very near future. Around the holidays, it's hard to predict when, but it's to talk about a traffic light at that intersection, lighting in general. The intersection by Hannaford, there are 2 lights that are over the intersection, but I agree they really may not be.
Well, the ones I'm looking at, if you go over and start, it's the one on Stafford Avenue, the end, both ends. The one where you drive in the driveway is not bad. I just noticed all the way down through there's lights and they're on the openings. I thought you probably were busy enough, you didn't change it.
No, I know, I've got the meeting with Rob, and it's
Yeah.
all about lights and lighting and the safety of the intersection.
Like I said, I didn't know who to go see, so. But, thank you. That's it. Thank you to the highway.
And I have, Tina, I just wondered if you would give us the timeline for budgets. You know,
Real tight.
right. I know that, but just so we're thinking about what we have to have when.
Well, you'll all see that you do have your budget books. They were updated with just the stuff, the housekeeping stuff that came in later on. I did not get a figure from dispatch from the county sheriff because he said that he needs to wait until the grand list is out, and we can't wait that long. He said sometime in January or something, his accountant gives him. I added a 10% increase because that's what I had heard from one of the girls in the office, which is considerable. But it goes based on grand list apparently, and I'm not quite sure why we couldn't get better accurate, because like the county court also goes on grand list and gives a better idea, but maybe they just haven't got to it. So all of that is in there. There's been a couple of ideas that have come out since that book that you've gotten that may help a little bit. next time we meet is gonna be after Christmas, and that's going to be, basically, you're going to have to make some choices at that point of where you think we need to cut the budget, increase the budget, do whatever you want. You're gonna have to make those choices because, and Eric may have suggestions for you, but it's getting to the point where we're gonna need to get to sign you're gonna have to sign the warning at some point in first part of, mid to,
I think it's the second meeting in January.
yeah, something like that. But we are gonna have some time to get everything together and whatnot, so we're gonna have decisions on that night. So if you're not gonna be here for any reason and you have something that you would like, talk about, maybe you can talk to Eric about it, but it's gonna be a tough meeting because everything's gonna be looked at. I've had some suggestions and so has Eric. I've shared them with him, so he'll be able to help you, share some of his thoughts, but it's really down to the wire. I mean, we didn't go over the capital budget per se. We can always do that too. All that is really is just a plan, an idea of when we're going to replace what equipment. But anything you wanted to replace in this coming budget is already in your budget books. That's just like a roadmap, if you will.
My thought of bringing it up tonight is, that's my concern, is the budgets, because as you guys all know, that all the budgets except for the fire budget are up considerably.
Well, even fire is up a little bit.
Up a little bit, but not compared to the other departments. And I'm just asking, is there anywhere that we can not necessarily cut, but maybe push off a year? Because there's so many other really, really high items that will drive,
Well, that will be, what you get to decide.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard all the department heads say why they think they need
Right.
what they do, and it's gonna be up to you to decide if they are supposed to wait a year or not.
Right.
And the plan on the 27th, Bob, is to bring you a proposal of operational cuts.
Right.
Tina has been looking into stuff and suggesting different formats for things, and we submitted the proposal for the renovation upstairs. I engaged with Donnie Blake, talked to him about spreading that over a 2-year period of time. So that dollar figure is still to come in, but there are things like that we're trying to do, just as you're saying, trying to spread these out, not trying to conquer the world in one year.
Right.
In order to bring the budget down to a more reasonable percentage.
Yeah.
We're starting out with a 5.9% cost of living investment on all this. So that's a tough one to overcome just to start with.
Yeah.
But we're looking operationally, and we're gonna have suggestions for you on the 27th to help things better.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking of the board is to think about the position additions that have been requested from police, rescue, the recreation, the part-time position for the finance department. And just be thinking of priorities. If you've heard from the department heads on the need for these positions, if you think about the prioritization of those, and you can ask any question you like on any one of them. Just ask us questions, we'll answer as we can, but the public comes to you folks more than they do to us.
Yeah.
To ask you about priorities and why you choose this. And to me, when the department heads came to you folks and gave you their presentations, those are the professionals in that organization. And I guess I'm looking for you folks to decide where those priorities should lie and how much could be tackled in one year. And those ideas may vary.
Right. Well, that's
all 5 of them. So.
And that, that's one reason I bring it up, because I'm sort of appealing to the department heads, because the department heads know far more about their budget than I do, and I in no way think, oh, you guys don't need that. I know you're very responsible and look at your budgets and only ask for what you need. I know that's true, but is there anything that we could not do this year? Because if I thought I got a lot of contact about ATVs, my phone's going to ring off the hook as soon as we release what the budgets are this year, because it's scary.
But Eric and I have met with Kevin, and we've come up with a couple suggestions for his budget to find funds in other areas that he can use to fund a piece of equipment per se and not raise tax dollars for it. Mm-hmm. So we're working on doing that. because that's exactly what we want to do. We don't want to see a big budget either. But there are certain things you have to have.
We need to get through tonight's meeting, and then the next 2 days are all eyes on budget. So we've been working on it for over a week now, really hard, and then the next couple of days are going to be significant in those areas of concern.
And like I said, I have no doubt that you folks need what you need, you know, there's no doubt about it. It's just, you know, we don't know those budgets as well as you folks do. You, Kevin, and you, Jason, you, Corey, you know them better than we do. And same with the general government. But, because we can't look through these budget books and go, oh, maybe you don't need this, you know, when you really do need that. And I'm not saying you don't need all of it. I'm sure you do, but is there something that doesn't have to happen this cycle? Anyway, that's my concern, but I appreciate the help. So, does anybody have anything else?
No, I support what you're saying. I think that's really important.
Also, I'm wondering, in terms of having good knowledge to talk to, you know, Morristown voters with, since I'm really new at this, I had like a couple of like, I don't know, probably silly questions, but what exactly does it mean for the taxpayer when we raise a half cent on the grand list? Like, what are they?
34,000, 30.
Yeah, when the grand list is lodged, it's a certain dollar amount. And 1/2 cent on it has historically been somewhere around $32,000 to $34,000.
Okay, so what does that mean for the individual? How much more are they paying in taxes?
It's hard to make that
Does it
connection.
depend on their property tax?
It depends on their value, it depends on a lot of things, not everybody pays the same.
Yeah.
The percentage increase of the government budget does not translate equally to the percentage increase in your property tax.
Right.
Because our grand list has grown at a very, very good rate. With all the development we've had here in Morrisville, that is going to help us tremendously to offset that increase in property taxes.
And so the tax rate, even though the budgets go up, the tax rate may go down.
Yeah.
So, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have
So,
higher.
you know, just think of it this way, if 1/2 cent is $32,000 and your grand list grows, you're spreading that $32,000 over more people.
Yes.
So the impact of an individual is a lot less.
And as the grand list grows, that 1/2 cent equates to a higher dollar figure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is that half cent on the what?
It's 1/2 cent on the grand list,
Half cent on the dollar or half cent on?
It's how much 1/2 cent raise, in this sense, is how much is 1 cent raised
The budget.
based on the grand list,
The overall.
the value of all the property in Morrisville, and it's a formula, and I don't begin to tell you how that works. That's a Terry Savings and conversation. She's our adjuster.
But that's what we go by, like the highway
If you look
gets.
at your overview in your budget book, you will see where it says 1 cent on a grand list, and it has a figure. It's an estimate, of course, because it's a budget for the highway capital equipment fund and the fire capital equipment fund, and it's $65,000. And then the 1/2 cent is like the noise house, and it's just half of that, but it's all, it's all to be, you know, determined based on when the grand list is lodged in August.
Right. And then the other part of that is that the municipal side of your property tax bill is only 15%. 85% comes from the school, from the state and federal education funding stuff.
85%.
And that's what people do not understand or believe or even know. So 85% of your property tax bill is the school, and we can't do anything about it. We can't dissect it. We can't look at it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So when people are calling us about the budget, we're only talking about 15% of that amount of taxes. That's not, you know, not to say we can't, you know, change it, but
Right.
it's still a very small percentage of the overall tax bill.
Right.
And I still talk to people every day that don't know that.
Yeah.
You know.
I had a taxpayer come to me the other day, wanted to know what was happening last year with him. He said it was an extra $400, and I said, it's not us. I said, what do you mean? I said, go back and look here. Last year, we were darn close to level funded.
Real close.
I honestly, I have had the conversation with 2 of the taxpayers, and the change had nothing to do with our budget. It was the education reimbursement.
Right.
They did not qualify for as much education reimbursement under the current funding formula as they had the year before. Those big increases in their tax bills, that was not our budget.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if they looked at
Right.
their education funding reimbursement, they got a lot less.
And it says it on the tax bill, I
It says right
believe.
here, and I showed it to him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've had a couple of folks angry and came in, hey, my taxes went up, and it was roughly the same amount.
Yeah.
And I said, I think probably not, and when I said the education reimbursement, he went, yeah, I didn't get as much as the year before. Well, that's where your increase is.
Yeah, right. Sarah, do you have any comment about that? I know you have in the past. You understand it probably better than all of us do.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing all of you though. Jess, I can work on I have a spreadsheet that I use for the village when I calculate the village tax rate.
Yeah.
That I could email you if it's helpful, and it says if your house is valued at 75,000, this is what your tax would go up rate.
That's very helpful.
That's helpful to put it in perspective, I think, yeah.
And I working on my reports for the town report too, and I'm kind of geeking out, and I've made some graphics that maybe will help too, that, and one of them shows the difference between the municipal tax rate versus the school tax rate too. Some visuals. It's gotten closer. It's not 85-15 anymore, but it's still majority school versus the town.
Yeah, it'd be good to know that figure, but I know I'm not saying exactly 85 and 15, but it's something like that as far as
And the state did change the tax bills last year so that it was supposed to help people see, because it has the municipal amount on one side and the town amount on the other side. Now it's just numbers all over the place. So I think the intention was good, but in reality, now people can't figure out how much to pay because there's numbers all over this piece of paper.
right. Made it more confusing. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Was there specific questions? I can hear some, Bob, I can hear you great, and Jess, but the rest of you, I have a harder time.
No, it's just nice to have your comments about it. Yeah, Gary's mumbling. But thank you.
Yeah, I can't hear Eric that well either. It's all right, but not great.
Okay. All right. Do we have any old business? Any other business? Can we adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Judy, second by Gary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now adjourned at